Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. Tate, bittersweet.
Bittersweet weekend, man. It's like I told my wife Friday morning, there were only 18 teams in the entire state of Tennessee that were still playing last weekend. And so, you know, a lot of really good programs, a lot of really good coaches, a lot of really good players that would give anything to have been in Cookeville this weekend. And, you know, the fact that we had two playing Friday night and Saturday night had the marquee games, but just came up a little bit short. But, man, again, we always talk about it with I think state basketball, TWSAA state basketball tournament, for some reason has a better feel of it. We've talked about that before. I think if you make it there, even if you don't win the state championship, you don't have the bad taste in your mouth sometimes when you lose a state football championship game. I don't know why that is, right? But anyways, if you made it there, you were one of 18 teams, and that's something to be very proud of and very thankful for, I think.
Well, and let's face it, like you said, obviously Summit and Ravenwood probably pretty disappointed, but they would have probably ultimately taken that. I know Ravenwood, they pretty openly talked, we want to be a state champion this year.
Right.
But when it gets down to it, you'd probably take that, and we know the other teams would. Every other team would have said, sure, we'll take getting beat in the finals.
Deal.
But it's just how it is.
And, you know, we talk a lot about it, but it's true, man. It really is. If you've ever been in a locker room, right, if you've ever been a part of a team, it was one more week to be together, and you know, you can't put a price tag on that. So came up short, but no shame in that. What great seasons to get there. And, you know, you look at all the really good football teams that didn't make it there. Some really good football teams.
Really good.
And so, you know, hats off to both Summit and Ravenwood. Great year. Nothing to be ashamed of. I know we here are very, very proud of them.
Very proud. And sometimes you shoot for the stars and you fall into the clouds.
I like it. Words of wisdom.
Is that a gem?
No, man, that's a nugget. That's like, that's just words of motivation, man. You need to start, kind of like, have you seen
it
on
may
Twitter?
not even be correct,
Have you ever seen on Twitter words of Chisholm, Gene Chizik? I don't know where this came from. Like anybody wants wisdom from Gene Chizik. But anyways, we need words, you know, words of wisdom by DJ. I think that'd be good. That'd be a good Twitter account.
I appreciate that.
I'm sure Gallatin would probably follow it. And
they would love it. The Green Wave. And by the way,
the dime dropper.
They've had plenty of time off.
Yes.
Gallatin has.
Yes.
After, what was that called? Highway Gate?
That's right. Well, can I tell a funny story?
Yes, of course.
This has nothing to do with anything, but my son saw Coach Coleman at Media Day. Well, he rode with his head coach, but thanks to his head coach, they showed up a little bit late. And so Coleman texts me and says, "Hey, just saw your boy, just like his daddy, he was late." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, blah, blah, blah." Was he 3 hours late?
He liked that, didn't he?
Kind of, yeah.
All right, before we talk about these state championship games, we have some other sports going on. Bowling district championships, girls final, Franklin, the number 1 seed, defeats Page, the number 2 seed in the final. Then the boys championship, Brentwood, the number 2 seed, defeats Franklin, the number 1 seed. All 4 teams will advance to the region tournament. I always thought this was interesting with bowling. They don't play their region or bowl their region till January 14th.
I was surprised by that too. That's a long
Several
season.
weeks off.
Several weeks off. Time to fine-tune your craft. But Franklin and Brentwood have definitely been dominating the last few years. Do you have any individual stats? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't.
My man Drake Austin, do we know how he had to have been in the mix for Brentwood?
I don't know that. I can't.
Mr. Producer, we might want to do a little checking on that. Wilco, you remember him last year from
Yes. Now Teddy Logan, you know, Coach Logan out at Franklin.
Yeah.
He sent me a real elaborate stat kind of sheet. It's pretty nice.
We need to go.
Well, we're definitely going to go.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
We'll just be rowdy and
yes, yeah, yelling.
What's the movie where the
Kingpin?
we need
Big Lebowski.
We need to move on.
No, I'm not kidding. I say this every year. I respect those cats because, you know, I mean, a few months ago we tried. We both fancy ourselves athletes, and We're bowling a 125. And,
I might have been 140.
well, I won, didn't I?
You did?
Yeah, I did win.
I don't think so.
I did. But anyways, doesn't matter. We're bowling a 140, 150, and we think we've accomplished something.
And that's not exactly our average. We could bowl a 94.
It was very possible.
Very possible. Basketball. First game of the district was last Friday night. Obviously, we were in Cookeville for the state championship game, but certainly this is big for getting that game one under your belt. On the boys' side, Centennial over Page, Brentwood over Franklin, Independence over Ravenwood. The girls' side, Page over Centennial, Brentwood over Franklin, Independence over Ravenwood. So that's obviously getting cranked up. Depending on where your bye is at, you'll play 3 or 4 games in the district before Christmas. December 19th is a date. That Thursday, there are games that night because they have to do that to get it in with 9 teams.
Only way to get it in, yeah. And I get it, you got to do what you got to do, but I hate that Brentwood Franklin's taking place on Friday night when we got state championships, but it is what it is. You're right. With that many teams, you got to get it in. And I tell you, the thing that jumps out to me is Brentwood Lady Bruins and Coach Thrash. They had a big win over a really good Brentwood Academy team.
Yeah.
And then that win over Franklin. They're off to a hot start. That was an eye opener to me. We knew they were going to be good, and with the Truschel twins back and Osgood back, but it seems to me they're playing good basketball.
So next week, we'll have more of a preview show for basketball.
For sure.
And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, no pressure, Coach Thrash. I'm penciling in the Lady Bruins for Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro?
Yes.
Wow.
I feel like they've been building to it each. Now,
you know what one of those teams looks like?
I think Page is going to have something to say about that, and maybe we'll have a couple of teams. I think Summit with Coach Wild, by the end of the year, they're going to be rolling.
So I meant to do this. We'll do this on the preview show, but how funny is that? Sets the record for 3 points made, right?
23. And he was getting, I noticed a couple of comments on Twitter, they were bashing him. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, it'd be different if it's like his starters. You go out there and say, don't take a 3?
No.
Well, I mean, sorry, they won 95-12. Now the scheduling could be maybe questioned, but I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're still going to shoot.
Yeah, it's up to the. That's right.
It's not like
we're not going to try to
there.
embarrass you. That's right. But if our other people, hey, they've practiced. That's their time to play, and they want to get better too. So no, I wanted to bet. I hope it wasn't. If it was, I don't want to know who it was. I bet it wasn't the opposing coach.
No, because I know as a coach, because I've had those situations where my team got thrashed, and maybe deep down I thought, man, they should call it off. But you think I'm going to let you see me sweat?
That's right.
Never.
Cool as a cucumber.
I'm going to shake hands.
Words of Cardwell. That's what we need.
I'm going to shake hands and just move on.
That's right. And remember it. Tell your team in the locker room. Remember that.
Before we get on to football, wrestling, Independence, Brentwood, and Centennial wrestlers were all in big competitions out of town. Brentwood finished second out of 28 teams in a meet there at Huntsville. Centennial had 7 medalists and won their tournament at West Creek. And Independence also attended that same tournament as Brentwood, and they had an individual, Russell Ford, place second. So obviously wrestling is getting started too, and we've got some good wrestling programs.
We've got some great wrestling, and what's fun is it's been headed this way for a long time. It's going to be that way again. You really don't know who's between Brentwood, Indy, Summit, Page, Centennial. It's going to be fun to see. Odds are we'll get 2 in the state tournament again, but if you predicted right now which 2 those are going to be,
it's hard.
You'd be just grasping because that's
right.
how tight it is.
And they work hard at it, man. I met with those guys a few weeks ago, and they're into it.
Yep.
They really are. So obviously wrestling, like all of our sports here, just continue to be on the rise. 4 team state championships, 3 team runner-up so far this year.
It's pretty strong.
I was hoping we'd have 5 or 6 after this weekend, but you know what? We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
We have no choice.
And we have no choice, and I think both the teams that we lost to were better than we thought they were. You knew they were going to be good, but I hate it, but I could not have been more impressed with Central or Maryville.
Yeah.
Good teams, good programs, well run. They were impressive, man.
Let's talk about that Summit game a little bit more. The 5A state championship Friday night. Summit 7, Knoxville Central 30. Knoxville Central back-to-back state champions after winning their first last year in year 112.
Yeah.
They get back-to-back. Very impressed with their coach. I've looked at some stuff on him, whether it be interviews with him. I know he had some connection to Coach Blade.
Yeah.
Very impressive in what he's done there at that program. And really, 3 turnovers in the first half was ultimately the downfall for Summit in that game.
For sure, and both teams, but the Summit, they knew couldn't get behind, because that's not really what we're about anyways, but especially against this team, couldn't get behind. Turnovers were just, it was something that we couldn't do.
I know it was 3 in the first half. Maybe it should end up just being 3, but down 24-0, that's going to be tough.
Down 24-0, you're not built to come back. They weren't going to let you line up and run the ball. They were going to take that away from you, and the way you're built, you're just not built to do that. And have a good passing attack, but not that kind of pass attack, right? And remember, we forget, because he's so good, you got a sophomore signal caller.
Yeah.
So is he 6? I'm sure he's 16. He might not be. Is he 16? Doesn't matter.
He's 15 or 16.
15 or 16. That's tough to do, and it was just one of those nights. It got away from them, and I think if they played again, it'd be a different story.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that.
But you couldn't have that start and recover from it. You look at the second half, and you saw that. I mean, it wasn't that Central pulled the gas off the pedal. Pulled the foot off the pedal, right? They just had a bad first half. That's all there is to it.
They did, and Coach Coleman said, and I think it was pretty obvious, that their experience showed.
I think so.
They'd been there, they had done that before. And you know what this felt like to me in watching that game? I was on the sidelines there. It had a feel of, this is just the next step for Summit.
Yeah.
And there's going to be another step soon. Not putting pressure on Old Sparty.
That's
but,
right.
Obviously you got to get lucky. To get very far, you have to be fortunate in terms of the draw, when the injuries take place, who you match up with. But if all that stuff is neutral, they're going to have a chance to be right back. They had some great seniors, but obviously we talk a lot about Destin and Keaton Wade, and those guys have two more
years.
seasons.
Well, without a doubt. Anytime you've got those two, you got a chance. But you're right, they're losing some really good seniors. But that's part of it, right? That's how you know if you've become a program. Are you a team or are you a program? If you're a team, then they're not coming back. This was their shot. But if you're a program, that's what happens. You're going to lose good players. You're going to lose good seniors. But you got guys that have been learning under them. And one of the things the biggest thing, you kind of like when they talk about colleges and the bowls, you can't put a price tag on this. The 5 extra weeks of practice.
Yeah.
So that's reps for these younger guys. You do that 2 years. Now you've played 3 seasons and 3 regular seasons and 2. And so we'll see how much that benefited them. But yeah, they are in, George Mathews, how do you replace him? You don't. But, you got other guys that step up. You know what I'm saying? And so they'll be better for it. I'm with you. They're not a 1-year.
No.
This is going to become, they're going to be in the mix every year.
And I was, texting Coach Coleman there. He's got to be proud. It's a long way from 0-10.
Holy smokes.
In his first year. He's done a good job of building a program there, and I know he's proud of that, and he mentioned that. Talking about those turnovers, all 3 of those turnovers in the first half, they were actually in Knox Central territory.
Yep.
So you come away with 10 points there.
Different game.
It's a different game. And then they score to start the second half. Destin Wade on a 1-yard plunge to cut it to 24-7. Had another possession real deep in their territory. They just couldn't cash it in.
Nope.
And I think that experience was a big factor.
For sure. And they're a good football team.
Very good.
They're a lot like, their stories were very similar. They lost to South Doyle, and who was the other one?
They were the number 3 and the number 2 seeds.
That's right.
There were 2 losses. Knoxville West, I think, was the other.
Knoxville West, that's
right.
right.
They had been beaten in the regular season, beat them in the
That's right.
in the
Summit
postseason.
Comes back and beats the guys that beat them,
And really wasn't Summit, honestly, on paper, an underdog every game?
In the playoffs?
Maybe not Dyer County, but seeding-wise.
I'll tell you what.
Seeding-wise, they were.
I'll tell you what, I saw that one in person. Dyer County had better looking. I know that sounds funny. Overall, they had better looking kids. That's what I was going to say. The thing that I am so proud of is, different guy. We're all the same, right? We've got our strengths and our weaknesses. Coach Coleman's still growing as a head coach. I think he would tell you that. But no doubt those kids play hard for him.
Yeah,
and I
they
think
do.
that's the biggest compliment you
They
can
do.
have as a head coach.
They do. And I'll miss some people here, but they're going to miss guys like Kiston Arnold, Jalen Harrod, Hayden and Joseph Bell, Andrew Pierce, G.O.,
Yeah.
just to name a few. They've been really important to that program, and I know they meant a lot to Coach Coleman. He talked about, which I think is pretty neat, and this is what happens too, I think, as you get older. Obviously, you'll remember the winning and the losing, but it's that relationship piece.
For sure.
And I know that's important to him too.
Without a doubt. And he's got that down. So, and you mentioned that Hayden Bell and Kiston Arnold and Jared, I mean, they play so hard.
Yeah, they do.
Warriors. And we throw that term around too much, but those guys, it's all you can ask. They left it all out there, just wasn't quite enough.
6A state championship Saturday night, Ravenwood 21, Maryville 42. Very similar feel to the Summit game. Both situations, they were both down 14-0. But I'll tell you this, when Garcia on that fourth down throws that dart to Mason, it was a great pass, great catch in traffic. To cut it to 14-7, I had a thought in my mind, I was like, this is really going to be a shootout.
It's turning.
It felt like it was, but something I noticed with Maryville and with Knox Central, and this is what great teams do, they made both teams pay for making mistakes. If I'm not mistaken, on the 3 turnovers Ravenwood had early, they scored touchdowns all 3 times. That's what great teams do.
Yeah, that's right. Take advantage of their mistakes, make them capitalize on the turnovers. When you have what's one of, and I know you probably haven't memorized. That's one of General Nealon's maxims, right? Play for the breaks, and when they do, take advantage of them, right? So it's Maryville, man.
Yep,
you
17
can't
state
do that.
titles for a reason.
Yeah, right.
And for them, and I know Ravenwood and their young history, they're sort of the same way. Not on the state level because they hadn't been in school as long.
Right.
But when I watched Maryville, it just seemed like a machine, honestly. It's like the Patriots.
Well, they have.
Let's just sub in some. I feel like when they play next year, I don't know this, they'll sub people in those areas and it'll be the same thing.
Well, they do. It is a machine. I mean, their middle schools, their junior high programs run their program. They feed into their middle school. They run their systems, and then when they get there. And I don't know if Coach Hunt does it. I know what George Quarles used to do. Coach Quarles used to do is he'd identify 4 or 5 kids, have them as quarterbacks, and they play quarterback and learn quarterback in the middle school level. And then they get to high school, well, there's already odds are a pretty good quarterback.
Chambers.
They play wide receiver or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when their turn comes, they come over to quarterback. They already know it, and they never miss a beat.
Chambers was impressive.
He's very impressive.
And he has some size.
Well, and the
Indiana
Maples
State
kid,
commit, right? Indiana State commit, I think that's right.
The
Chambers.
Yeah, what is their mascot?
Well, it's the Sycamores, right?
That's right.
Larry Bird. Come
Indiana
on, man.
State Sycamore. I knew you'd know that.
Come on, man.
I was laying that one up for you. Knock off the tee. No, it's impressive. Maples. I can't remember his first name. His brother Tyler Maples was a great player for Coach Quarles. Probably played with Coach Hunt and went to Tennessee. But it's so 2 things, and then we'll talk about Ravenwood. I went and watched Maryville a couple years ago when they got put out by Oakland, and I thought, man, they don't look like an old Maryville team. The line was small, didn't look very physical. They fixed that problem. They were bigger than I thought. They were better on defense than what I thought they were.
Yeah,
I now know why they shut out Oakland.
Yeah.
And that running back T. Hodge was legit.
Tennessee commit.
He's better than I thought he was. He looked like Chuck Webb in number 44, man. He was legit. You agree?
I can't believe the name's escaping me. The guy for the Seahawks a couple years ago. What's his name?
Marshawn Lynch.
Yes, Lynch. Yeah. It's like, what's he do? I know he had eligibility left. He kind of had that look of him.
He was physical.
Tough. He's really
physical,
tough.
Downhill, and they were good, man. But Ravenwood. Hey, 3rd head coach, Coach Daniels. Now,
which means you got a program too, by the way.
Rector did it a little differently. Rector actually won his first state championship appearance, lost his second one the next year. Coach Hester lost his first one to Maryville, comes back and beats him the next year.
That's right.
I think there might be a pattern.
Well, I tell you what happens too. Dr. Qualls and I were talking about this morning. The 2014 Ravenwood team was, on paper, pretty significantly better than 2015.
I would think so.
That's going to happen next year. I mean, they're losing 21 seniors. I know they've talked about this senior class, how special they are. Don't count the Raptors out next year either.
I wouldn't. Now, they're losing a quarterback that, what a special kid, man.
102 touchdowns in his career, 91 passing, 11 rushing, which would, I guess that would be a
gym.
That'd be a gym for sure. Hey, how about this? Just shy of 3,200 yards this year, over 7,000 for his career. And, I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I met and talked to his parents. I'd already met his dad, but I met his mom right before pep rally. I was invited to their pep rally summit. But it's no big deal, I promise, no big deal. So I went to their pep rally and met her, and they're just neat people. And by the way, they watch this show, so I'm glad we say nice things about
Chris Garcia is a good man.
Brian Garcia. And what's not to like, right? He's running around back there like Johnny Manziel. Well, and I mean that as a compliment.
No, without a doubt, it is a compliment. Well, that's what he is. What I love about high school football, man. That guy's better than a lot of people that are going to get an opportunity to, go wherever. He's going to be able to play somewhere. He just might not get the money that some guy that he wouldn't. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the tallest guy, but man, he can play.
The touchdown he scored to cut it to 42-14, where he lands on his head, basically.
Well, that's where I was going with
Great
it. I mean, that game's over.
It's over.
He left it all on the field to the very end. You know what I'm saying? He only knows one way, and that's full speed. And that was one thing I said to him a couple years ago. Hey, man, we know you're tough. Quit running
Quit
people.
proving it.
He never got hurt. I'm sure he was, hurt, but he never missed. He's what it's all about, man. I mean, he was a joy to watch, and job well done. That's what I would say.
And talk about those seniors too, Tate. Barton, Garcia, Mason, Craig, Rice University, as Dr. Qualls likes to talk about, Grimes, Dawson. The list goes on and on. 21 seniors, I think it was, that I'd mentioned before that they had, and meant a lot to that program.
Well, look you mentioned Shane Craig, and we all know what he went through last spring, and he's already signed to play baseball at Tennessee Tech next year. I believe it's Tennessee Tech. And so there was no reason for him to come out. His college plans were already taken care of. But he wanted to be a part of the program.
Yeah.
He wanted to be one more year in there. And then he got it back.
And if you know his dad, Teddy,
the district
now he's Mr.
Golf Coach of the Year.
It was Mr. May.
Mr.
Now
September.
it's Mr. September. And by the way, I've gotten to know Coach Craig a little bit. He's great.
He's good stuff.
He is, and he's got those same genes. He's a competitor.
Yeah, competitor.
Just like his dad.
That's right. So he came out, and then, if I had told you 4 years ago that somebody would be breaking Van Jefferson's record,
right,
probably would have taken that bet. Andrew Mason does it. And so, great senior class. Graham Barton, I've always loved him, man. That guy plays. He plays the way offensive line. Obviously, he's been blessed with size and
a lot of toughness,
and athletic ability, but
he
plays the way it's supposed to be played. He gets after you. And so you mentioned the 21 seniors, but that's, in my opinion, that's 6A football if you're doing it right. You're going to have a big senior class losing it every year. Now, it's the same thing we talked about at Summit. They had 5 more weeks for these young pups to practice and get better. So Coach Dan, and I think we ought to mention that too. Coach Daniels, his second year as a head coach. Third year as a head coach. This is a big deal, man.
Quarterfinals, semifinals, championships. So the progression would be.
He's on the plan.
And it's fine. I know people give Coach a hard time about he cutting the raptor into his head, and I get all that. But let's face it, some of that he's new on the block, new kid on the block. People don't like you being the new kid on the block coming in there and winning. But I'll say this about him. He's authentic.
He's authentic.
And when you are your authentic self, whether you're tough, whether you're playing music, whether you're cutting a raptor into your head, the kids know it. And I'm telling you this, those kids know it. They love him, and they play for him.
That's what I was going to say. You can say
about.
whatever you want to. Those kids play hard for him. So whatever. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Right?
And
I wish I could cut a raptor in my head.
Hey, and by the way,
Hair.
a wise man once told me, he said, if you come into the room and every other coach wants to hug your neck,
Not good.
that means they're kicking your butt.
They want you around. Hey, buddy.
That's different if we got this lifelong relationship. I get that.
That's right.
But when it comes down to it, hey, it's something else I wanted to mention. Tom Crawford
Yep.
inducted into the coaches, Tennessee coaches, I don't know the exact title, but
TNFCA, Tennessee Football Coaches Association.
Hall of Famer now, father of.
Ron Crawford.
So I know we're all very proud of that. Great guy. I got to meet him earlier this year. And Coach Crawford, Ron Crawford, he just so loves and respects his dad. That's a neat thing for them to be able to coach together.
I think very cool. And I think it's made him healthier. He's a really healthy guy, but he's active and he shows up every day and he's coaching, substitute teaching. And 54 years in coaching. And the thing that I think is really neat is you look at the guys that have gone on to be really good head coaches that coached under him young. Obviously, his son, Ron, I don't know if he ever coached for him, but he dang sure learned a lot from him. Will Hester, we know that name. He turned out okay.
He's done okay, yes.
He at a very young age coached for Coach Crawford at Laverne. Steve Carson, who had a good run as a head coach at Eagleville. So I think that's pretty cool, man. Are you sending guys out that are doing things the right way and leading their programs and affecting young men? And Coach Crawford's definitely done that. So, and you know what, man? One, it was so cool for him, but to see how proud Ron Crawford
was neat.
That was neat, man.
Really neat.
Cool.
He'll never forget that.
Nope.
Tate, the Pickham's final standings. It's over now. And it's amazing how close. So it was one win at every level. So in last place, I like to call it last because that's what it is. Dr. Qualls had 73 wins on the year. So I was bringing
That's better than I thought he'd do.
I had 74 wins. I only beat him by one. 74 wins. The fans had 75 wins. And then you, Mr. Tate Mathews, had 70. I feel like we need some kind of trophy or some kind of award.
Buy me a queso over at Pueblo Real.
Queso.
Hey, another wise man once told you know what second place is, right? The
What?
fans? That's first loser.
Oh. What's third place?
Second loser. Fourth place? Clown show.
Tate, it's been a lot of fun.
Always is, man.
It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, great season for Williamson County. I still say definitely the class of Middle Tennessee in terms of football.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you on the statewide, you got to be thinking that too, because I still say the winner of that Brentwood-Ravenwood game was going to be in the championship.
Agreed.
Summit makes the championship, and let's not forget about Page, the kind of season they had. Nolensville makes it all the way to the semis, so we've arrived, so to speak. I don't think it took this year for us to arrive, but I think there's just no doubt now where we're at football.
Oh, absolutely not. And then that's what Nolensville makes it to the semis. Gets beat by what we saw up close and personal on Saturday, a really, really good Elizabethton team. Fairview, that senior class, wins their fourth region championship in a row. Franklin gets into the playoffs as well. They just ran into a really good Cane Ridge team. And then Centennial, who had and Independence made it to the playoffs, beat Smyrna,
Lost to Brentwood.
So we beat up on each other in 6A, and then Centennial obviously didn't make it. But that's what's so cool about it is you look at their wins, they beat up on two Rutherford County teams. They just happen to be in the toughest district in the state.
And if we went to and I don't know how we would do it, although some states do it. I know I've seen in other states they do it in basketball, where they seed the teams.
Yeah.
If we weren't lined up with each other, we'd have more than one in the semis, believe me.
Without a doubt. If they went separate ways, sometimes we'd have two in Cookeville.
No doubt.
Hey, and I want to mention too, we can talk more about it next week, but the TACA, Tennessee Football East-West All-Star Game is this Friday at Austin P. Stone Roston's in it. This is what I think is so cool. Top two quarterbacks for the West, because we go West. We don't send anybody East. Ethan Cash, in no particular order. Ethan Cash, Cade Walker from Page.
That's cool.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there'll be some Nolansville kids in it, and some Centennial kids, Independence kids, Brentwood kids. It's going to be fun, man. Really neat. Congratulations to all those young men that made it. That's a big deal, man. You're one of 44 on the west side of the state.
It is. Tate, we'll see you next week.
Hey, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. You can send your gifts to the central office. I don't know the address right
Care
offhand, but
of
just- yeah.
County Athletic Director.
Yes, thank you.
Happy birthday. You,
I
you don't look
appreciate
a day over 50.
Well, I'm 49.
Well, you don't look like, there you go.
We'll see you next time on the Sports Connection.